Welcome to today's episode of Ask Me Anything. This is where I answer your questions. And if you want to be able to ask me questions and have them answered here, check out our membership at renamalik.supercast.com, where you can leave questions for me to be answered, and you'll get to see the entire episode of Ask Me Anything.
All right, let's get right into it. I know for men, waking up from sleep to pee is a bad thing, but I'm a woman and I'm waking up to pee a lot too. I feel like I do it every night. Is my bladder trying to tell me something? Questions from Carla.
Carla, I love this question because waking up at night is not normal for most people, but after the age of 55, everyone is going to wake up probably once. And the reason for this is because after, between 55 and 65, your body starts changing and it gets signals from the heart that tells it to make more urine at nighttime. So in fact, you start making about a third of your urine volume at night. And most people's bladder can't handle that amount of volume. So you're going to wake up at night at least once. So if you're waking up once, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do to change your physiology. You're going to have to wake up once because your bladder can only hold that much. And so the average bladder holds about 16 to 20 ounces. And so you're going to have to wake up at some point when it gets very full. Now, if you're waking up more than once, that's considered abnormal. Whether you're a male or a female, that's considered abnormal. Now, usually it's not a dangerous thing. It's more of a quality of life thing. The big danger I worry about is when patients wake up at night, it's dark, they don't have good lighting, and they fall. And these falls are really, really dangerous, particularly as you age. Because when you have a fall and say you fracture your hip and you have to be hospitalized for that, there's about a 20% chance that you could die the following year after a hip fracture. And so it's really important to prevent these falls. That's the first and foremost, most dangerous thing that you need to worry about. Secondly, is if you're not emptying your bladder. So some people, men very often can have difficulty emptying their bladder because they have an enlarged prostate. And that's very, very common. In fact, 80% of men in their 80s will have an enlarged prostate. So oftentimes that can lead to difficulty emptying your bladder. Now in women, this can happen too for a variety of different reasons. It can be from, lifelong behaviors. A lot of times we'll see like nurses, hairdressers, even surgeons have incomplete emptying of their bladder because they've been holding their bladder for many, many years. So that is an issue that needs to be addressed, particularly if you're getting recurrent infections and things like that, but it's also making you wake up more. Other than that, it's typically usually just a nuisance, but it can be a pretty big nuisance because if you're not waking up every 2 hours at night, you're going to be tired the next day, and that's going to reduce your quality of life. So ultimately, there are plenty of things we can offer you to help with difficulty with waking up at night. But the easy things you can do is limit your fluid intake before bedtime. So 2 hours before bedtime, try to really limit how much fluid you're taking. Avoid things that might irritate your bladder before bed. So that can be caffeine, alcohol. For some people, spicy foods, artificial sweeteners, citrusy fruits and juices, tomato-based products. And then also, if you have sleep apnea, get that evaluated and get that treated because that will often worsen the waking up at night or the waking up with the urge to urinate. So those are some easy things that you can do. Also, if you're constipated, treat your constipation because the constipation will make your bladder more overactive. It'll make you need to go more often to the bathroom with the urge or like gotta go. So treat the constipation. There's a whole bunch of over-the-counter stuff you can use. I often prescribe Miralax or fiber that can be really helpful to my patients. But ultimately, make sure you're going regularly. That means having a soft bowel movement at least every day. Some people can go a little longer, but always your bowel movement should be soft and easy. You're not straining or pushing. It shouldn't look like, rabbit pellets. It should look soft, long, easy, normal bowel movements.
Very good. Very good. Next question. How do I keep my wife interested in sex? We're newly married, but my older coworkers keep telling me their wives lost interest in sex only a couple years after being married, and I don't want that to happen to me and my wife. I don't want to do it every day, but I do want to do it 5 times a week at minimum. I want her to maintain the same sex drive as me. This is Cole from Stockton.
Cole, this is a common question, but I think the first question to ask is, how often does your wife want to have sex? And is, in determining like what is her baseline level of desire. And it may be different from yours. And so I think understanding that that is going to happen and fluctuate throughout life is sort of a normal thing. And also desire is very interesting. So I think people think desire is like what we see in the movies. You see your partner, you get turned on, you want to jump them, you want to have sex immediately. And that's not actually true. A lot of people, particularly women, develop what's called responsive desire. So they actually need to feel intimate with their partner. Maybe they'll start the act of like connecting with their partner. They'll cuddle, they'll touch, they'll start being like kissing, and they'll, oh yeah, I like this. But the desire doesn't come until after they've initiated. And that's normal too. But I think ultimately one is realizing like where you guys stand in terms of desire. And then, what does she like in bed? So I think really very importantly is if you want someone to want to have sex, the sex has to be good. And when you're newly married, you sort of have to experiment, figure out what that is, and figure out what your partner likes and what you like, and talk to each other about sex. So communicate. So actually like sit down, not in the bedroom, maybe when you're sitting at the kitchen table or when you're going for a walk or when you're in the car, and talk about sex. Be like, oh, what do you like? What turns you on? What do you enjoy in the bedroom? That's important. The other thing is if you want to keep a long-term relationship with a, healthy sex life, you want to sort of incorporate a few things. One of these is novelty. So sort of like trying new things, incorporating different things in the bedroom. And again, always with consent, always with discussion with your partner, but, figuring out things that maybe you haven't tried that you might like. Also, setting the mood. So having things feel a little bit intimate. So whatever that is for you and your partner, but it could be as simple as lighting candles or, having some soft music, but sometimes that does go a long way for certain people. And again, that's very individualized between you and your partner. The other thing is actually setting aside time for intimacy. And this is important because as you are in a long-term relationship, life gets busy. Like you might have children, you might have other things going on, you might have aging parents you're taking care of. There's a whole bunch of things. Plus work gets busier because you're now, mid-career. And so all those things can detract from desire and time to actually have sex. So you get in bed at night, you're both tired and you're just like, I just want to go to bed. And then you wake up in the morning, you start all over again. So you never actually take the time to be together. And you have to realize that men and women look at sex differently. Men look at sex as a stress relief, but women don't always perceive it that way. Now, many women do, but some women, especially if they're got a lot going on, they have a lot of other stressors, they may actually look at it as just another chore or something that stresses them out actually to have to find time to have sex. So I think talking to your partner, picking up cues if they are stressed, other things like that, and just making sure that you guys are on the same page, you're keeping it interesting, you're trying new things, you're communicating with each other, and just, keeping that intimacy alive is really important.
Next question. Is there a such thing as drinking too much water and peeing too much? Or can I just keep drinking as much as I want to keep my kidneys healthy?
Yeah. So absolutely. There is definitely such a thing as drinking too much. So more commonly what we'll see is people who drink too much will just go to the bathroom a lot, right? They'll be going more frequently, more urgently. And it's because they're drinking so much. They're constantly processing all this fluid. Their bladder's getting full. It's spasming, telling them, hey, you got to go. And they're rushing to the bathroom. So that's first and foremost. Now, is that dangerous? Not necessarily, but could you fall on the way to the bathroom? Could you hurt yourself? Could you distract from your work or be unproductive? Yeah, absolutely. But, we have seen in, for example, marathon runners where they'll drink so much water that they actually become what's called hyponatremic. So their sodium levels go down because they've drank so much water. And that's actually a life-threatening condition that then needs repletion of that sodium. So what I tell people, as I mentioned earlier, is aim for your urine to be light yellow, like lemonade. If it's clear, you're probably drinking too much. If it's dark yellow, you need to drink a bit more. And that's usually a pretty good regulation of your body because your body does a good job of trying to hold on to water when you're not drinking enough and put it out when you're drinking too much.
I just thought of a follow-up question to that. So I had a relative who has type 1 diabetes, and I think they found it because he was drinking water excessively or milk. I forget what it was, but he was drinking all the time. So can it be a precursor to something else going on?
Absolutely. So if you find yourself having excessive thirst, it can be leading to diabetes, either type 1 or type 2, which are different types of diabetes, but ultimately get evaluated. So if it's because you're thirsty and not because you're just drinking out of like, oh, I think it's healthy and I'm drinking to lose weight or other things. If you're drinking because the thirst is so overpowering, absolutely see your primary care doctor to get evaluated. All right. Thank you guys. If you are enjoying this Ask Me Anything, check out our membership at renamalik.supercast.com, where you have exclusive access to the entire AMA. So you get to watch the entire AMA or listen to the entire AMA on the podcast. And you also get early access to all the podcast episodes, both video and audio, ad-free. And you get an access to Ask Me Anything. And these are questions that we look at every time we do an Ask Me Anything. And these are the questions we pick from first when we answer questions online. I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, remember to take care of yourself because you're worth it.